Hi, Dennis Weiss. Welcome to our town. We're out here on the edge of town at the Heritage Center, and we're in the building that I hadn't been into until just recently. Got Steve Miley sitting here. He's a farm buddy, 4-H buddy, Eagle buddy, a whole bunch of buddies. So Steve called me up a while back and said, "Have you seen my old International truck that we rebuilt?" And I said, "No, I have not, but I've heard about it and I want to see it." So we thought we'd bring a camera. We'd talk about what's going on here in the Far East shed.
Yeah.
And because it's a great story, but there's a lot of things to see here. So welcome, Steve.
Thank you.
All right.
Glad you're here.
You betcha.
And this is the Ag Building, is
the
what
Ag
they call
Building, the Ag Building, not the Far East shed.
It don't matter.
That's why those people over here are here, because they have their correct answers.
I don't know about that.
Okay, so I think it is fascinating what has been done recently to make all of this stuff into something that moves again. So tell us the story, not of the Model A behind us, but the old International truck that we're going to shoot some film of here in a minute.
Well, the Model A was a story, though. It sat in the warehouse for 33 years with brand new tires and a rebuilt motor in it.
Oh, really?
In 1975, and it was on jack stands.
No kidding.
And I said to Austin, "What's this doing in here?" He said, "Well, they wouldn't let us take it out, or they didn't know how to get it out of here." I said, "Well, we can get it out of here. That's no problem." But then we saw the old truck sitting there, and I said, "What's that truck doing sitting in here?" I said, "Nobody can see it in here." It was a 1923 International Super 2000 truck.
Super 2000.
That's what
truck.
it was,
And
yeah.
it was the Super 2000.
It says, "Do not load over 2,000 pounds."
Right. That's right.
But it's quite an old truck. After we got all the extra junk, which was 2 or 3 bushel baskets out of the cab,
Yeah.
I found the nameplate for it, and it only goes by a number instead of a VIN number.
All right.
1010, I think, is
1010 is the VIN.
that's what we registered it at down at the license plate. And I went down there, and the gal says, "Well, I've never done one of these." I said, "That's okay." I said, "I have a friend that's a highway patrol." He said, "We need a 1090. And she said, "Okay," and she got that. And she said, "We have to have a bill of sale." And she says, "You got to make it out to yourself from yourself." And so she did just what my friend told me.
Yeah.
And I was out of there in 20 minutes. I couldn't believe it.
That's terrific. That's terrific.
Then they said, "Do you want a license tag?" I said, "How much is the tag?" She said, 50 cents. I said, "We'll take one."
Take 2.
Yeah, that's right. We'll take
That way I
2.
don't have to get chained.
Take 2 at that price. But we got the old truck out of the warehouse about a year ago, Memorial Day. But we had to have tires, and we told the committee in here we needed a set of tires, and it was going to cost $1,250.
Right.
Well, they about had a heart attack.
Sure.
They said, "Well, maybe 2 years from now." I said, "We don't have 2 years." I said, "We got to get tires on it so we can move it." And so I went around businesses here and in the county and got $1,250. And I walked in, I said, "Here's the money. Can we order the tires?" A few days after Memorial Day a year ago. And so we got the credit card out and called California and ordered them up. In 5 days, they were at my place. 4 brand new tires, 33 by 5s.
So I think that's one of the reasons you really hooked me here to bring the camera, was that story, Steve.
Yeah.
Because it's such a great example of obstacle, find a way.
Yeah.
Obstacle, find a way. And finding a way is often just going to ask somebody, "Can you help me?"
Yeah.
And a lot of people in our community are very willing to help me.
Yeah, a lot of people are.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we got the old thing out, but the thing was last tagged in 1939. So I know it hadn't run for 40 years because it was put in the warehouse in 78.
Okay.
But I don't think it's probably been anywhere much since 39.
Well, I know it's been somewhere now because I saw it in the parade. We had it on camera.
Yeah.
I saw you had to take the hood off to try to shed some heat, though.
Well, we're trying to work that remedy out. We have electric fan we're putting on that radiator that moves 1,350 CMF a minute.
Yeah,
so
all right.
It's going to be moving a lot of air through there. So
I'm thinking there might be a bit of silica stuck to the inside of that radiator is what I'm thinking.
yeah, I think so, but we don't want to touch the radiator
No.
too much because it's 95 years old.
Yeah, I looked at it the other day after you told me the story, and I'm not sure I'd put more than one finger on either side.
One guy was going to push on it. We were going to move it one day, and I said, "Oh, don't push on the radiator." I said, "We're trying to give that the least abuse we can."
He might have ended up with his hands
Yeah.
in the fan.
Because I said even the motor sitting there vibrating, why it vibrates and a little piece of rust comes off and psst.
Yeah.
But we haven't had too much trouble with it, really.
So it sounds like it kind of runs like a top, though, the other night when you were driving it back and forth out here with the hood on. But it sounds like it runs good.
Yeah, finally after 5 months of ignition, carburation, water leaks. Water leaks is about the worst, but we wrestled with that thing over in the blacksmith shop about all winter long.
You and who?
Me and Austin Andrews and Terry Thompson and Kenny Mills and Max Wisher, and there might have been one or two others. Those are kind of the main ones. But
sounds like the old Tinkers group.
Yeah, I said all we need is a good mechanic. And one guy taught Votech in Salina for years, diesel Votech. So, and Austin said, well, I went to school. I said, well, fix this thing. I said, but we finally got it to where it'll start on one crank now.
That's true. One crank.
Yeah, I mean one. And that,
see, we need to tell people what one crank means.
They didn't the foot starter.
No, one crank means a handle you stick into the front of the motor and it engages the cog, and you bring it up to compression and you
flip it one time.
Flip her over.
Yeah, about two pumps on the throttle on the column and get the key on. And
we have an ag building fly that's part of the MG
yes, he
process.
is. He likes it here too. Yeah, but the old thing, everything you get everything right, the thing will start on a crank.
So you know, this is part of the history of Dickinson County.
Yeah,
so it's more than just the old Tinkers group that like the old tinker, right? But this is part of our history. As I'm sitting here looking, we have a windmill sitting right there. We have the sheriff's automobile from Bill Davis and his brother Milton, who were the only law enforcement people killed in the line of duty when Dickinson County was officially a county, I think, ever.
Yeah.
But you have threshing machines, you have a true combine of the first order sitting down there, tractors galore down the sides. But you know, history just setting up against the wall's one thing.
Yeah.
But when you see it out here in the field behind, doing the work that it was intended to, that's a whole other level of cool.
Yeah. And we got a binder they drug out of the warehouse, and I said, I think you'd be smart to leave that in there. But they didn't, and they bound oats out here about a month ago.
So explain what binders do.
Well, the binder goes through the field, it cuts the crop off, lays it on a belting, and it takes it up into the binder, and when it gets so big of a bunch, it flips the trigger and it'll knot the string, it'll bind a bundle about that big around.
Yeah.
And then it collects another bunch and just keeps doing that. If you got the tractor going right, if you got the sickle right.
That's right. And what do you do with the bound bundles?
Well, they stack them up or haul them in on the trailer, which they should have done, but they kind of got left in the field, so it kind of went the other way. But that's what they put into the thrashing machine.
Okay, so
first weekend of October.
I wanted to go through that because then we may go through it again. So you know, nowadays you go out there in a $300,000 or $500,000 combine. You turn the radio on. You turn your GPS on. You watch the monitors that tell you what's happening in your combine, and you go through the crop. And when you're done, the finished product, the grain, goes in your tractor trailer to the depot. Yeah. Not so much with the equipment here.
No, out here it either goes into a wagon out of the thrashing machine, or I've looked up thrashing machines on the internet, and there was actually a guy on the thrashing machine bagging it as it came out, bag for bag, and then he'd slide it down the chute 5 at a time.
So I tell these stories and nobody believes me, or else they think I must be 150 years old. But when I was little, I'll be 61 tomorrow. But when I was little, we had a couple of guys that ran their threshing machine still in Colorado for beans, because they said it did an unparalleled job of threshing the pinto bean. You know, pinto beans, you cut them, you let them dry in a windrow, and then you have to go pick them up and put them through a combine. Well, these old machines, they simply converted them to mobile. They towed them. Oh, really? Built a little pickup thing for them and fed them. But there are several of those sitting around the fields and the hedgerows out there where I grew up in southwest Colorado.
There's still some sitting around here, but So a lot of them have been pushed in holes.
Yeah, sadly.
Kind of thrown away, you know. But
well, I don't know if it's sadly. So this is a program about farm history and Dickinson County, and you say pushed in holes. They were pushed in holes for two reasons. They were not usable anymore. We didn't know what to do with them. But when you put them in a huge washout hole, it stops the erosion process. The dirt piles up on it. And frankly, if you take the long view, turns it back into the material from which it came after an eon or two.
One of the thrashing machines out here was on my place, and I donated it to the Historical Society, and they came out with a trailer and loaded it on and hauled it in here. So it was sitting behind the building. I'm of this opinion, you can tell me if I'm wacky or not, but I think historical preservation is such a treasure, not just because we can come look at it, because it allows us to have understanding from where we came, what the problems and solutions were, because I'm here to tell the young people that are around me, including my 18-year-old son, there's some problems headed your way too. Yeah.
and a lot of them may look more like solutions that you guys did down here than of the past, which is just push a button and get a product.
Yeah.
You may need to understand how things work, and you may need to be able to fix something.
Yeah. Well, my grandparents came from Switzerland.
Really?
On a train that came to Junction City. That's where the track ended when they came.
Okay.
It didn't go any further west at that time. And they led their milk cow, carried their cook stove, and all their other possessions with them. And they walked from Junction City all the way to New Basel Community, and that's where they lived in a dugout for about 2 years.
Wow.
Before they built a cabin. So them people were tough.
Those people had a vision of commitment to a better life that I don't know that we understand fully.
No, I'm not near as tough as they are. I can't imagine going from here to California, across the mountains. Most of them lost half their family before they got there.
Yeah.
They get sick and die.
Yeah, the Weiss family, we're, again, recent immigrants, really. I mean, my granddad Weiss family jacked up from Missouri and wanted to cross the Rocky Mountains and go farm the new ground in Colorado. A couple things happened. They used mules and wagons to get to Fairbury, Nebraska. Got swindled out of their mules because somebody told them they'd die in the high altitude. And then after that, they took 2 old Model T trucks that they had bought with proceeds from the mule, hired a driver because none of them knew how to drive. And my Aunt Marie, who was about yay high, drove the second truck. They found out that the driver they hired was an alcoholic when he drove the first truck with all of their kitchen off of Wolf Creek Pass, where it lays still at the bottom of a ravine over there today. So pioneering was a great adventure, but you know what? It wouldn't have been one most people would have signed up for.
I couldn't have lasted. I wouldn't be tough enough.
I don't know. I don't think we sit here tough enough, right?
No.
But I think if those circumstances are in front of young people, they'll be fine. They'll figure it out. They always do.
Yeah, young people are bulletproof, though. I'm not bulletproof anymore.
Well, you must be if you got that international running. Hey, I got a question for you. Do the lights work?
Yeah, they do. The original bulbs still light up in them.
Wow. Tell the story. Where you found those headlights?
We went to Gossel, Kansas 2 Saturdays ago. They have their annual thrashing bee on the first Saturday in August every year. And they do sawmill, they do thrashing. They have 150 tractors. They have stationary engines. And we went down there with the stationary engine and we hung up our signs and put up our little tent. And we handed about 25 or 30 of these flyers to different people. And I handed one to a guy and I said, "Where are you from?" He said, "I'm from Miami." Florida is what I think he said I meant.
Yeah.
And I said, "Well, you can always come back," I said. But anyway, later on we were sitting there and there was a guy from McPherson that had a swap meet table where they have all kinds of everything, old and odd. And I walked over there and first thing I saw was a rear view mirror. And I said, "How much you want for the mirror?" He said, $4. And I said, "Well, that's reasonable." I said, "I'll take that." And I looked under the table and there was a pair of headlights off of a Dodge Brother truck, which I guess Dodge Brother goes to Chrysler,
right?
Is what they told me. And I said, "How much you want for the pair?" He said, $20. And I went, did you say $20? He said, yeah. And this was the nicest guy you could ever meet, Tim Unruh from McPherson, Kansas.
Okay.
And I said, Tim, I don't have my checkbook and I ain't got enough cash. He said, you just mail me a check, he said. I said, do you want my address? He said, no, just mail me a check when you get around to it. So he was one of them good old guys.
So now we've learned why it's great to live in central Kansas.
Yeah, but we don't want to tell everybody because then they'll all want to move here.
Yeah, we do, because half of them aren't going to believe you. Half of the next half won't have the courage to get up from where they are to come, but that 25% of those young people, like Sarah Wilson, who we filmed the other day, who jacked up from Chicago and came here, we want those people.
Yeah. So I ended up buying them from that guy, and he said, you just mail me a check. He said, you want my number, address? No, he said, I don't need it. He was trustworthy.
So they're great looking lights. You're telling me they work?
Yeah, the original bulbs still light up in them.
Wow. That's amazing.
I took them all apart and cleaned all the dirt and rust out of them.
So the bulbs I bought 2 weeks ago at Best Buy in Salina in my kitchen, they don't work anymore.
Well, these are, I think these are Mastercraft or something or other. But,
really?
And they don't have dim or bright, it's one light. It's like holding a couple candles up in front of you.
That's better. Well, how fast are you moving in that?
Well, we probably ain't even gonna have them running around the dark anyway. But
well, but seriously, how fast would that truck on a hauling a load be going over a dirt road? How fast?
Well, dirt roads, you probably wouldn't want to go over 25.
Will it go over 25?
I think it'd probably run 50.
Oh, really? Okay.
You shift it into high gear and it's saying I'm ready to go.
Okay.
So the high gear is pretty high, but you wouldn't want to haul a load at 50 miles an hour.
No, you told me a story about somebody taking one like that on a trip west.
Cecil Schrader said his dad used to have one that was about a 28 International, and they called them, I think it was Red Ball or something. They had a name for them. He drove his truck to Albuquerque, New Mexico 2 times for different reasons to go get something. And I said, you gotta be kidding me.
You'd have to have a sandwich for that trip.
Oh man, and about 50 gallons of water. and they went, and I didn't hear what the reason they went down there for, but they made the trip, and that was all dirt roads back then.
Yeah. Wow.
There was no pavement back when they went. And Cecil even has a picture of the truck out in the field. They have it loaded with cinder blocks, and they're pulling a 3-bottom plow. So
no kidding.
That's something that's kind of slick.
Well, the history of Dickinson County is great, and Dave gave me the 2-minute sign, so we're on wrap up. We're going to take some B-roll of some things as we go, but let's get this in. October the 6th, you're going to have an event. Hold that up where he can see it, and I'll say what it says. Dickinson County Heritage Center, right here, 412 South Campbell, October 6th from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m., featuring Alice Chalmers' tractor, of which I have one. Stationary engines, Cushman, exhibitors come in on Friday starting at noon, set up Saturday morning 8 to 9. Car show, all the stuff that goes on down here, including carousel's going to be on.
Yeah, and sawmill and cider press. And Friday night they're taking a tractor caravan to Enterprise.
Oh, really?
To the grits mill.
So if you want to drive your tractor to Enterprise, you need to get a hold of somebody down here.
You just need to show up on Friday afternoon.
Or just show up.
Huh?
Or just show up.
Yeah.
With your tractor. 263-2681 is the phone number down there.
That's the best thing. If you don't know what's going on, just call the Historical Society and they'll tell you.
So I think I want my encouragement to be, you know, if you've been in town a while and you think you know what goes on down at the Heritage Center, you owe it to yourself to walk down to the Ag Building after you've seen this interview and look at these automobiles here and this farm equipment here and understand that there's a group of people who are putting them back to mobility and including maybe a little work.
Yeah. We actually had a couple come in here one day. I said, where are you from? They said, we're from Northern Ireland. I said, you're kidding me. He said, no, we're traveling across the United States and we just happened to come to Abilene. We're getting a sign put up on Buckeye maybe in the next month, a 4x8, so.
All right, Steve Miley, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
For being willing to sit in front of the camera, but most of all, being willing to join up with the Old Tinkerers Club and come down here and get this stuff back out where we can see it and understand what it did for us back when it was running.
Well, we got a good bunch of volunteers, and if anybody wants to come down and tinker Tuesday nights from 6 to whenever.
Tuesday night from 6 to whenever. That's about as good an invitation as you could ever get.
If you get tired, you just quit and go home.
Okay.
Or aggravated.
Steve Miley over there, Dennis Weiss. I work for Eagle Communications. Know you enjoy seeing this equipment. You have a great day.